Good morning, everybody. Democratic nominee in Wisconsin's 29th Assembly District race, Danielle Johnson, is our very special guest today, Thursday, September 29th, 2022. For DrydenWire.com, I'm Ben Dryden, and welcome to another episode of Meet the Candidate, where we get to know the person, not just their politics. Special thank you to some of our guests so far this month, including Congressman Tom Tiffany, AFP Wisconsin State Director Eric Bott, Democratic nominee for Wisconsin's 30th Assembly District Sarah Yakub, Adam Jarko, and Joel Clayfish. And last week we were chatting with the Democratic nominee for Wisconsin's 7th Congressional District, Dick Osman. You can watch a recording of those and all of our previous shows on our website at DrydenWire.com, right here on our Facebook page, or it's probably simply just go to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/DrydenWire. A quick programming note, next month, October, we will be doing these shows on both Thursday and Fridays due to the amount of requests that we've been getting from candidates to come on right before the election, of course. We'll kick off our first week in October, so next week with the Democratic candidate for Wisconsin's 73rd Assembly District, Laura Gapsky, on next Thursday, so a week from today, followed by Republican candidate for Wisconsin Secretary of State, Amy Loudenbach, on Friday. But today we're chatting with the Democratic nominee in Wisconsin's 29th Assembly District race, Danielle Johnson. Oh, that was a lot to get through. Danielle, good morning.
Good morning, Ben. This is a cool thing you got going on.
What?
It's obviously in high demand. All these people want to talk to you, which is really cool.
No. They're just desperate at this point. Like, okay. We'll just go. Because they know I don't ask any hard questions or anything. It's just total softball pitch stuff. But that's fine, because I find that I learn more about someone by getting to know the person more than exactly where they stand on issues. Now, issues are certainly important, and we'll get to that stuff with you as well. But first, let's get to know Danielle, the person, before Danielle, the candidate. So where were you born? Where were you raised?
I was born in Bloomington, Minnesota, but I was raised in Red Wing. So when my parents divorced, I grew up just across the river in Minnesota, where I guess a lot of Democrats come from. I don't know why, but but that seems to be the case. But yeah, I grew up and graduated from Red Wing High School in the 80s and was like, let's get out of Dodge, and kind of ran around a little bit. I went to undergraduate at Northwestern University in Evanston, Illinois, and I ended up getting all my education in Illinois for some reason, just by happenstance.
Sure.
But I have a degree in comparative literature and theory is my undergraduate degree.
What is that?
Which is weird. It's basically like getting a degree in English, except you use different languages. So I studied German, and I just, all of a sudden I got to college and I was like, literature is cool. And I read a bunch of books and wrote a bunch of papers, and then had no idea what I was going to do with this degree. So I bopped around for a few years, and then I was like, hey, I'd like to go to vet school. So I had to go back to school to get my science requirements to get into vet school. So I'm a veterinarian.
You're a veterinarian. I didn't know that. And also, veterinarian, my understanding, and I'm sure I'm wrong on this, there's a lot of schooling for that, isn't there? Or am I thinking of something else?
No, we have a medical degree in veterinary medicine, so it's a little bit shorter. You can be a general practitioner after 4 years of veterinary medical school, so you don't have to specialize like human doctors do. So it's a little bit shorter than being a human doctor, but it's pretty much the same kind of training. It is the same kind of training.
How much total schooling did you end up going through?
Well, 4 years of undergrad. It took me 2 years of going part-time at community college to get my science requirements, and then 4 years of veterinary school.
Oh my goodness, 10 years? Essentially 10 years worth?
Yep.
That's ridiculous to be a veterinarian. Fitzy and I, for our Positive Tuesday shows that I do with Barron County Sheriff Chris Fitzgerald, we had the Spooner Library Director on as a guest a few weeks ago. And kind of find out, being a librarian, same thing. Like a whole bunch of schooling. I'm like, I don't know. I just thought if somebody's applying, or it's like working at McDonald's, not knocking, fast food or McDonald's, something like that. Just, you're a store manager. I used to run like Blockbuster stores. I'm dating myself now. Papa Murphy stores, but I didn't need a degree to run the business. So I'm just kind of looking at libraries. It's kind of the same thing. Like you don't need a degree or maybe a few years of school. Holy cow. It's not just 4 years. Then you have to go to like library school. It's ridiculous.
Right. I mean, it's like it's a science of running a library, and it's kind of cool because it's like preserving information. We have a new, I know this, I just happen to know this because I have kind of a new family member who is into library, is a librarian, and it's really cool. It's really cool.
That
So,
is awesome.
yeah.
So you went right for, so you get your degree and you're, all right, you just get a
Yep.
job and you're a vet. Where was your first job in that
My
field?
job in that field, I worked the first 7 years of my career in a small town of Shelbyville, Illinois. It's a town of about 4,000 people. And I did mixed animal practice, so I had to get up and do emergency calls in the middle of the night to pull calves, treat horse colic, and get up in the morning. And I was on call half my life. So the first 7 years of my career, I was on call every other week. And then in the day, did surgery and saw appointments, and yeah, it learned a lot, because it's a constant state of learning. There's always something that's gonna like something that's new and different and is gonna knock you on your butt because you were like, oh, I didn't know that.
Uh,
Oh,
so that was in
so it's
Shelbyville,
pretty cool.
right?
Hmm.
Illinois, 7 years. Then what?
Shelbyville, Illinois.
Then what'd you do?
Then I really wanted, the whole time I was went into the veterinary field, I wanted to own a veterinary practice the whole time. That was part of the what appealed to me about being a veterinarian, is that you can
Yeah.
use your brain, use science, but then you can also own your own business, and that always appealed to me. So I kind of I wanted to buy into this clinic. It just didn't work out. So my mom was getting older. She lived in Maiden Rock, and I got met my husband in vet school. We got married. I have two stepkids, and they were teenagers when we got married. So they were semi-launched, and my mom was getting older. So we moved back to this area so that
Wait,
I
hold
could
on.
be
Where's
closer
this
to my
area?
parents. She Oh, the well, basically this area of Minnesota, Wisconsin.
Got it.
So like,
Okie dokie.
yeah,
Got it.
because we're instead of Central Illinois, so just moving north because closer to my family of
Sure.
origin, and so I got a job at New Richmond Veterinary Clinic, and that's what brought us here. So
Eh,
I haven't had that many jobs. This I'm only on my third veterinary job.
well, I got
So I've been a
two.
vet for 20 years. Yep. Well, but now that didn't work out. So I worked there for 2 years,
Okay.
and then I bought a failing veterinary clinic in Baldwin in 2011.
Why?
And
I mean, I'm
because
sorry.
I
You
really
wanted to
was
own one, but why buy a failing one? Was it, I think all entrepreneurs
desperation.
and visionaries, they feel as though I can fix it. Why don't you just start your own, like from scratch in a different place instead of one that's already, yeah, it's established, but it's failing. So why did you think? It's like restaurants. There's restaurants all over these small towns, which bless their hearts. But every 2 years, it's another business owner thinking, I'm going to make this restaurant. I'm going to turn it around. And the 2 years is up for sale and somebody else owns it for 2 years. Why'd you buy a failing veterinarian practice?
Well, it's a little bit, it had been successful, and it was, but it just didn't have the constant a veterinarian wasn't there the whole time. That's kind
Okay.
of a boring
Sure,
story.
sure,
But
sure.
veterinarian wasn't there the whole time. And so it was so it was kind of like having like you're talking about, like starting a new one. It was kind of like that with a jump start. It still had the equipment, it had the location, it had some clients that were still there. And so I was pretty convinced that I was going to have the opportunity. They're all going to come back. It's all going to be great. Everything's going to be
Yeah.
spectacular. But to your point about a few months in, I was like, what have I done? What have I done? I've run out of
I made a
working
terrible
capital.
mistake. Yeah.
I've made a terrible
Yeah.
mistake. And then like, why did I think I could do this? But then we regrouped, and I borrowed more money. I changed my attitude. I was like, if you're going to go down in a ball of flames, it doesn't matter how big the ball is. So,
Ah.
so I borrowed more money and changed my attitude, and we turned it around. So
And
now I have two doctors, 12 employees, and and we're rocking and rolling.
All right. So first, where is this? So that's where you still are now.
Hmm.
And where is
Yeah, not the
this?
same building, but the same town. Baldwin.
Baldwin. Got it. And when
Yeah,
did you buy this? About just ballpark, just for a timeline standpoint.
2000 and 2011. So 11
2011.
years ago. Yeah.
All right. So then you've been doing that. What have you been doing? I thought I had, I think it was an email that you sent me yesterday because I was asking for, I think it was a photo of you, and you had forwarded it from another email address for something else. And I had seen, and I printed it, that you also said veterinarian, small business owner, and then board chair of Western Wisconsin Health. And it's, yeah. So what's the Western Wisconsin Health? Because I was kind of creeping through, when somebody forwards an email, first thing I'm going to do is look at all the other things that were, said in that email chain. So what is that? The board chair of Western Wisconsin Health. How did that come to be, and what is it?
So Western Wisconsin Health is a very unique, independent rural hospital nestled in Baldwin. And it has so when I first started the clinic or purchased the clinic and was getting kind of more familiar and a part of the Baldwin community, I had the opportunity I just saw an advertisement that said, hey, we're looking for board members for the hospital. It was called Baldwin Area Medical at the time. And I was like, hey, I want to do that. I want to learn some skills, get to know some more people in the Baldwin community. And I applied and got on the board, and it's just been really fascinating. So Allison Page was the CEO. She just retired. She's running for assembly in the 93rd district right
So
now.
that,
She just
and that
retired.
name sounds familiar.
Yeah, she says she asked you for an interview,
Was it,
so
maybe that's
you
why.
should have her on.
Wait, was
Yeah,
that because I've only said, because anytime somebody asks to come on, we say yes. We've only said no, and by we I mean me, once, and that was just recently because we're booked up from now through the election, but I looked up this person, and it was not close to, even relatively close to our area in terms of our coverage area in
yeah,
rural North Wisconsin. I'm like, all
right.
right, so yeah, but here's the thing: if anybody cancels, you're my first phone call, you're my first email, but it wasn't in our area. That's where I know that name from. It was from an email.
Yeah, yeah. So it's probably creeping too far away, but it neighbors my district and Sarah Jacobs district. The
Okay.
93rd does. Yep. So it's the one next door, but it might be getting
Okay.
too far away. But yeah. So oopies, my AirPod fell out. Um, that's how you get to know people when they get to know things like they say oopies when their
Oop.
AirPod falls out.
See, we get to
um,
know the person.
yeah. So it's been a really cool. So now, it's been 7 years I've been on the board, and there's a new hospital and a new CEO that we've hired, and it is a cool organization. It is really based on wellness and like the complete picture, like complete health and wellness of the community,
Mm.
and it's been able to do that by staying independent largely. And it's really fascinating how healthcare is covered as far as costs and things like go in a small community, because it has to live outside of capitalism in some ways, because it just supply and demand doesn't help small populations get the healthcare services that they need.
Mm.
So for example, you can have a baby in Baldwin, but starting in January you can't have a baby in Menominee,
What?
because West 100%. So because we have a fabulous OB ward at Western Wisconsin Health in Baldwin, but the larger systems that have taken over hospitals, because it costs a lot of money to provide OB care, then they have slashed those departments,
Mm.
or they have a hard time recruiting. So you also cannot have a baby. You haven't been able to have a baby in River Falls for a couple of years.
I don't think there's a place in Washburn County. Now, granted, Menominee has a lot more people than, like, our largest city is in Washburn County, is where I live, here in Spooner, and it's got, like, I don't know, 2,000 people. That's the largest one. So I kind of understand that. But Menominee's, I don't know, what do they have? Not including college students. It's got to be what, at least, 11,000, 15, 20? No,
Yeah,
11.
something like
I don't
that.
know what it is.
Yeah, I'm terrible. I should know that. It's in my district. I should know the
Yeah,
population of
right.
Menominee, but I'm just
Yeah.
terrible at
It
keeping
always
those
feels like a
numbers in
lot
my head.
more in the school year because of the college. But
Right.
that's crazy that it's like that.
It is. It is absolutely crazy that it's like that. And since you haven't been in, and River Falls is similar, college town. I think I don't know the population of River Falls, but it's got to be 12 or 15,000 as well.
What?
And
Oh, yeah, it would be, wouldn't it? I was
maybe
just,
it's a little bit smaller.
well, I don't
I
know.
always imagine it the size of Red Wing was about 12,000 when I was growing up. That's
Half
how
the
I
people in
picture
River
it. But
Falls have to be working in Minnesota. Seriously.
I don't know.
I really think
I
so.
don't know. But then they're finding actually that since it's been a couple years, uh, the family practice doctors there are wanting to collaborate with Western Wisconsin Health because they're not getting the OB care. People are not
Sure.
actually traveling for their regular wellness appointments when they're pregnant
Uh-oh.
because they have to go to the cities or they have to go to New Richmond or Hudson and they're just not doing it. So it's rough. It's rough. So I don't know. I love being on the board. I think it's been really fascinating. I've learned a ton and really learned a lot about what makes a community work. It's a
Mm.
large employer in the community, serves an absolute important need in the community, and it's pretty cool.
So your business uh, sounds like a successful business. It's going well. You're the board chair of the Western Wisconsin of Western Wisconsin Health. Everything is just fantastic. And then you said, you know what? I think I'm going to blow all this up and I'm going to run for, assembly. How did that come to be? Oh, by the way,
Well,
thank you, Catherine. 15,800 pop for River
oh,
Falls. Thank you, Catherine.
yeah,
Sorry, go ahead.
yeah. So yeah, we're in the ballpark anyway, but that's more than I thought even. Yeah, so my staff is a little bit like, what are you doing? Like, what's going to happen if you win? Like, that's going
All
to
right.
be, yeah, that kind of thing. So, well, democracy is the big word there, Ben, because it was looking like Clint Moses was not going to have an opponent, which I think he shouldn't be handed his job back without having to fight for it. So that's bad for democracy.
And
And
Clint Moses, so
I'm
I don't know
worried.
anything about him other than his name is Clint Moses. I don't think I've ever talked to him. Clint Moses, he's a Republican. I don't even know how long he has been in the assembly. How long has he been there,
It's
your opponent?
one term. He
One term.
was he was
Okay.
elected 2 years ago.
Got it. So nobody was kind of running. And I've heard this from a lot of
Mhm.
people before too, on both sides of the outlets. I want to see there should be a challenger. Always.
Mhm.
There should be another option. And when I looked down, I think it was just the other day, I was looking through all the assembly races. Actually, I was trying to find out what assembly race you were in. And I couldn't remember. It was the 28th or 29th. So I'm looking through this list, and I saw a number of them that don't even have a challenger. Right here, a little closer to us in the 75th Assembly District, Dave Armstrong. Now, from what I'm told, he's doing a good job, but it's his first term. I was really surprised that nobody was running against him. It's Barron County, for crying out loud. I mean, this is a big area here, and nobody was, which that's fine, whatever, good for Dave. But most people, I think, want an option. So was it for all right, like I don't really want to, but I just want another option? Or you know what? If I'm going to get into this, I'm getting into this.
The second thing. So, because it was when I first decided. So it was a late decision because I will tell you what, like, Clint Moses currently represents me where I live, my home address, which is between Baldwin and New Richmond. However, with the new maps, my home address is now in the 30th. So
And that'd be
if I
Shannon
win, so not
Zimmerman,
only,
right?
yeah,
In
so
this
not
area. Okay.
only, yeah, so not only if I win, I'm going to have to also move. I can legally run, but I have to move to the 29th district when I win. So talk about blow up your life. I'll have to have my legal address in the 29th
How
when I
far?
win.
How far are you going to be away from the new district, from where
Like
you live now?
17-minute car ride.
All right, so it's not like a stone's throw away. Where it's like close enough.
No, yeah. I
Which I
mean,
don't think that should whatever.
but the new map, yeah, and you can have a whole conversation about gerrymandering if you like, because the
Yeah,
new
that would
maps
be
are
that would be like a
bonkers,
2 hour long show.
bonkers. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So we won't get into that.
Yep. So the people who don't know, what is the new what is the new maps? I'm sorry, not new maps. What the 29th Assembly District? What does that cover? What cities?
so it covers Hammond. So to the west, it's Hammond. It goes north to Clear Lake, and then it goes east to Menominee. So it also includes Colfax. It includes Colfax as well.
So it's a little bit of Polk
Ridgeland,
County, just a tiny little bit.
just a tiny, tiny bit. But it's mainly Dunn and
Done.
Eastern St. Croix.
Eastern St. Croix. And for people who don't know, that is so like the maps are changed and they go into effect. But people that are voting, are they voting based on the old maps or are they voting on the new maps? The new maps are in effect.
Well, the new maps are not in effect in that Clint Moses is my current representative until January 1st.
Really, I thought it was. I
So,
thought it went into effect already.
but the election, because you're electing leaders who are going to take over January 1st.
Yeah.
So the election, yes, it's going to be the new maps. So I will be voting for Sarah Yakub, and proudly. I can't
Okay.
vote for myself,
Oh, what, you can't? Oh wait,
even
no,
though
yeah,
Clint
right.
Moses currently Clint Moses represents me until January 1st.
Well, that's nice that we make it as confusing as possible.
Yeah.
So let's talk a few issues. What issues are you kind of running on? What are your top three when people ask you? I mean, they already know you're a Democrat, so therefore most of those things. But what are your three things you always want to make sure everybody knows where I stand on this when you talk to them?
Well, we definitely have to talk about abortion. We have to talk about it. So, when I first, it was really interesting. During the timing of when I decided to run to where we are now, it was even before the leak. I decided to run before the Supreme Court leak about Roe v. Wade being overturned.
Mm-hmm.
But it definitely is different when it actually happens, because just the idea that women are not qualified to make decisions about their own reproductive health, and that the government has a say in what's happening inside a person's uterus, is really not cool with me. So, and a lot of women feel the same. So it's not, it is just really reprehensible that we're living under a law that was written in 1849, and it needs to be changed.
Is that
So
the Democrat in you, or is that the woman in you?
that's the woman in me,
Sure.
100%. Yeah. So because, I said I graduated in the 80s. And so, my reproductive organs from puberty to menopause, I was able to live in a world where we had reproductive choice. And I think it's liberating for women. I never had to have an abortion, at the same time. When you live in that world where women have control over their own bodies, it is a liberating experience versus having a government that wants to control that.
When you have other women, so we're not talking Republican or Democrat, but just another woman who has a different point of view on that, and is perfectly fine with the 1849 law, the currently way it is. What's that conversation like?
Well, I think that is what choice means. If you have a religious view about when life begins, you are perfectly free to practice that religious view in your own life. There's
Sure.
nothing prohibiting for you from doing that. So I think it's mainly a religious conversation, and I firmly believe in freedom of religion, and also in that freedom of religion, there are religious views. The Jewish tradition is, accepts abortion, and you should also have freedom from religion. There's fewer and fewer people are becoming religious, and
Yeah.
our government, there's no place for a strict religious view to invade our legal system.
So when you're elected and a bill is proposed for, what would you sign in terms of abortion? Is it I wouldn't say like everything. That sounds like morose, but I mean, there's no restrictions whatsoever. Is there a point? Is there a weeks where it's, after 15 weeks, I guess I'd be okay with this? Is there any kind of compromising medium there, or no, this is a woman's choice from the moment of conception until the moment leading right up to birth?
Well, I would I mean, the thing is even if we are able to have the discussion, that we're so far away from even being able to have the discussion about what makes sense, like what makes sense legally, And so I would like to start from the point of view of like, why do we need a law to restrict it? I'm not saying that I don't think there is a need
Oh,
to restrict it, but let's start from there, so let's start from there, because what is the evidence, and what is the where are we going to use as our basis to make this decision? If we decide to take religion out of it, which we absolutely need to do, then we need to put some biology, science, and data behind that decision. And I would say the general area to kind of start would be, after viability, after where a fetus is viable. That would be usually where we start. But then I would ask a question like, are is it a thing that, do we need a law though? Because are people actually, like, who have carried a pregnancy to that point, asking for an abortion? Is that even occurring? So there may not even be a need for the law, for any kind of law, because it might not even be a thing that is occurring, and
I have not heard that yet, and that's interesting. I've never heard thought about that point of view before, because I've never heard it about, instead of what kind of law should we have, why do we have a law to begin with? Not saying we shouldn't have a law. That's my understanding. You're not saying we shouldn't, but we should be asking the question, do we need one? And I'm
Mhm.
sure you've thought about that. What do you think? Do you think this is one of those?
Well,
I mean, if I go to, I don't know. I don't know what an analogy. I think any analogy for this would be a terrible analogy. But there's a lot of things that we do and medically related, or that I don't need a law to do, between the doctor and myself, right? Duh. So this would be in that same category. Is what you're, I'm not saying proposing, this is what you're saying. We should think about that. Maybe the government should have zero role in all of this. Not just a law that says you can, it's there shouldn't be a law about anything. Am I understanding it right?
yes, because right, is there a need? That's where I would like to start. Like,
Sure.
is there a need for a law? And the answer to, like, because I don't really know. I don't know if there it's do does if you can say, right, because it would depend on who is being hurt, and at some point, we most reasonable people think that at a certain level of viability of a healthy pregnancy, that at some point it does get kind of morally icky to say that we're going to end it, but I don't even, is that even occurring? And then I think if you are going to make a law that says that it's against the law to end that, then you are talking about, because people throw around the word murder a lot when it comes to this situation,
Mhm.
but murder is a legal term, and if you are going to use murder, then what you're ascribing to the entity that's being murdered needs to have true legal rights,
Sure.
legal recognition as a citizen under the law. So I think it's interesting.
Interesting.
I don't know exactly what the answer is, but I would start to the basis for what do we need in our civil society that gives people uh, their freedom of religion, and sort of protects the public good,
Hmm.
in general. So
What
so
are
it's
give?
interesting.
What's another one? Because we could talk. I mean, this is
Oh yeah, yeah.
it's a very sensitive topic, and so thank you for having that discussion, right? Because that's what we just want to kind of get to know where you kind of are standing on some of these things. What is another one of your kind of your top three things that you're running on that you want everyone to know about you?
Well, there's so many things. I think there's, like, what the second thing is, it is just feels like a banquet table. So when it gets to the second and third, because what really gets me is that when I walk into the door in the morning, at my job, I get, I have to answer questions. I have to solve problems. I'm
Mhm.
like trained and built to solve problems, and nobody seems to be coming together to solve problems. A problem that happens. I would like to work on childcare. That why is childcare so incredibly expensive and difficult to obtain? People who take care of our children aren't paid very well, and people who want to work are often have so many problems with childcare that it makes it very difficult for them to work. And so I would really like to work on the childcare issue because I think it's a huge problem. And I think it's in the public interest, once again, for us to take care of children from early childhood and make sure that they get the care that they need at a reasonable price so that people can work and know that their children are safe and well taken care of for. So that's
Is there something that you see right now that you look as under the umbrella of childcare that this is something we can and should get done right away? Is it simply paying childcare providers more, or is it the financial part? What is something that we can do to get this stuff corrected?
Yeah, I think it would be start with our public education infrastructure that's already there and expanding public education earlier, expanding 4K, things like that. I think that would be a place to start.
Well, what does that mean? Sorry, I'm ignorant on this. So
So,
expanding 4K.
so basically expanding schools, so that kids can use the public school structure
Uh,
for early childcare. So that basically you can
oh.
take your child to a kind of school. So public education, I think the government has an opportunity to help people in this way.
Is that available
So more
now
government.
anywhere? Yeah, more. Well, there you go. That makes sense. Is that available now anywhere?
I think,
Because that
yeah, in
doesn't
some
seem like a
places
really
they have.
stupid idea, right?
Right. I think there is some for right. So they are expanding childcare kindergarten a little bit earlier, 4K.
Okay.
So that's what 4K is,
Yeah.
so that's where I would start with that public education system.
Sure. And how about a third thing?
Oh, I think I think a third thing would be related to clean water and pollution. I would like to see us give power back to local governments like county boards to basically have more power to say like we're going to work hard on making sure that forever chemicals are not in our county and that they have the power to do things like that.
So where are we right now? Now, for people other people who don't know, where does it stand now? And then you said you want that more of that power, more of that decision making going to our local boards, which I'm 100% of that, a fan of that. Anything going to our local thing to address local issues, duh. It's kind of a win-win almost all of the time. So where is it right now?
Well, it power has been taken away, I think, to serve like large mega corporations so that they can come in and do business. So in the name of business, like we can never hinder business, right? So that businesses have the freedom to set up shop and not necessarily have repercussions on the local level, and then it takes like so the Emerald Sky Dairy, for example. So like say that dairy spill, it took a long time for those repercussions to catch up, to the dairy, even though it was detected. I think it took a couple of years for them to have like some heavy fines and things like that imposed, and all of that has to happen on the state level. There's a lot of I don't know. There's a ton I don't know about it. I'll be completely honest about it, but
I don't
it
think anybody
seems
does.
very
Mhm.
seems very cumbersome, and it requires funding from the DNR and things like that. And so if you had a county board that elected people that was super like, what, we're gonna crack down on make sure that we have clean water for our citizens. I think they should be empowered to do that, but they're in the name of big corporations. That's a lot of
Sure.
that power has been sacrificed.
So if these three topics, we'll just use these: abortion, childcare, and clean water / pollution. If you're elected and 80%, and you know this, like you do your own poll and 1,000 people in your district, which would be like the most comprehensive poll ever. Because if Marquette Poll can tell us exactly how Wisconsinites think of our almost 6 million people in just 1,000 people polled, 1,000 people in your area, that'd be a great poll. If 80% were, and it doesn't matter which topic this is, abortion, childcare, or clean water, the 80% of your constituents wanted to go in a direction that you didn't want to go. This is not what I want. How do you handle that? How do you vote for what you believe? This is what I think we should do, and because it's a part of my beliefs, or is it, well, hey, okay, that's what you guys want. I'll vote the way that you guys want. How do you reconcile that? What do you do?
Well, here's what I do. So in my job, there is, so, say I have an animal that has a pretty complicated medical condition, and it's also kind of old. So this happens all the time, right? So it's a very frequent situation. So the kinds of conversations that I have, what I see my job as a veterinarian, and I think a lot of it, this analogy probably holds true in, for elected officials too, is it's my job is to help engage the process. So it's basically to go, this is the process that we use to help you make the decision that's going to be best for you and your pet. So, and the process includes the basic education. It includes data, like we have to collect data. We got to do some blood work. We got to look at the history of what's going on. We have to try to kind of get a grasp on what's the likely trajectory if we do this X, Y, and Z. So the end result is never as important to me as the process. I don't have an agenda about what owners ultimately decide if I can help guide them through the right process. So I think the answer to your question, Ben, it would be, it depends. Like, did we go about it? So we did this poll and 80% of people think I'm full of baloney about what I want to do. My question then is, did we go through the right process? Do those people have the right information to make that decision?
Sure.
Do they have all the information? I don't necessarily want to say, well, we can talk about right and wrong information. That would be another show too.
Yeah. Yeah.
But did we engage the right process before they determined it? Sure. Because I probably am not going to want to give up on my idea of why I think my idea is right, unless I'm pretty convinced that they had all the information before they gave that conclusion. And this is also why I'm really excited to be in Madison, because that is the process that we need to go through to make the laws that we hope benefit everyone. It shouldn't be this just political idealism. It really needs to be a process that we come together to make these decisions. And that's what I'm really interested in doing.
And sometimes, let's face it, constituents can have knee-jerk reactions, where sometimes I'm okay with government moving slowly because, okay, let's slow down. Defund the police 2 years ago. Very popular thing. Popular is in national narrative, and this was a big thing, and a lot of people, including politicians, again, I'm not banging on that. It's just the fact that most of them seem to be on the left of the political aisle. And now it's kind of come back around, and now it's like, no, we're all for police again. But we can still do maybe some other things, community things, etc. So on that note, 2 years ago, when that was a very big topic, a huge topic, and for about almost a year about defund the police, where were you on that then? And where are you on that now? And has there been a difference and or change? Where do you stand on that? And where did you stand on it before and now today?
Yeah, well, I mean, where I stood on it at the time was like, I don't know who came up with the word defund, but it was a completely like misnomer for what my understanding of the actual like sort of movement was about. So I don't know. I think it was very misunderstood from the very beginning, because I always saw it as a way it is supporting police, because it's just saying like, hey, let us help you do your job better by giving you resources for other problems that you shouldn't have to deal with. So it wasn't about to me, it was never so and this is how I stood on it then, and this is how I stood on it now, is that it's really about understanding the complexity of what law enforcement, the kinds of problems law enforcement have to deal with, and giving other resources so that they don't have to deal with, say, mental health. If it's a mental health call,
Mm.
can we have some specialization within the police department, so those officers who have the time and give those time for that attention to de-escalate these very complicated
Mm.
situations, are able to do it. So because I think police officers are given just a tremendous disservice by not giving them the tools that they need to do their job in a
Mm.
complex way. So I think when it comes to the rhetoric about police, it's just so oversimplified, and people see it as black and white when it's just way more complicated.
Yeah, the
And
10-word
our
answers, kind of a thing from like the West Wing show, the 10-word answers, stuff like that. And so in January, when President Biden gave his State of the Union, that's when, he had used those words: we don't need to defund the police, we need to fund the police. And most people kind of understood that as, hey, Democrats running, this is what we should be. This is the rhetoric. These are the words that we should be using. We should fund, etc. So that kind of died down, that whole thing. And now it's a lot more of a talking point. The talking point now is about bonds and cash bonds. So I know we're almost up against our time, but I do want to ask you about that. Cash bonds. There are some that say that we should either do away with cash bonds. They should be, some saying higher, but not most. Most are saying let's reduce those because it's not fair. Some have even suggested that it's racist, or it certainly is more harmful to people who can't afford it. So if you get an OWI and I get an OWI, well, first of all, you don't get anything. But let's say it's actually something that they're actually going to give you a cash bond for. If you make $500,000 a year, you're going to get a $3,000 cash bond, and I'm going to get a $3,000 cash bond, and I don't make that much. Well, that's not fair because it's hurting the people who can't pay that. What's the fix there? What are your views on that?
Yeah, you're exactly right. When we coming full circle back to my degree in literature, I always think about like Charles Dickens was very much into, like, back in the day they used to have straight up like poorhouses where they put people who couldn't afford, we are really like incarcerating people out of poverty rather than violent crime. And
Mm.
so I think once again, the data should lead the day. Like, is this the type of crime that is, violent crime? Yes, they probably need they need a cash bond in order to protect people, but non-violent crimes probably don't need a cash bond in order to protect the public. So for me, I would go for, like, what do we need to protect the public, and then try to have it more fairness, like you said, in the issue with, because people who have money, then they have fewer consequences than people who don't, and that really isn't fair.
Yeah, we were talking about that on this week's Positive Tuesday show. And it was a positive show, but we happened to be bringing that up. And we were actually kind of just throwing out random ideas like, well, how does that get fixed? And is it like based on your income percentage-wise? So yours is, if you're making, if you fall in this bracket, it's going to be a $500 cash bond. But if you make 80 grand a year, between 80 and 100, then maybe it's a $2,000 cash bond and more. So at first, this is just random ideas, right? We're not suggesting that's what we should do, but we're just throwing that out. And then we realize, oh, wait, that wouldn't work, because if you and I are wildly different income sources and we both get busted for the exact same thing, and then you get an X bond and that doesn't seem fair either. So we can't really seem to figure out what the answer is here. But
Yeah,
it's a discussion.
I think it should. Yeah, and I think it should have to do with the level of violence of the crime. Honestly, so,
Certainly.
like drug offenses. I don't know, but you're right. I suppose then if guns are involved, but nobody got shot, you could.
That's just, this is incredibly
Yeah, so
complex.
it is complicated, but we can't say, oh, this is too complicated for us to solve, and just throw up our hands,
I
right?
can.
We can figure it out.
No, you can when you're elected. I'm not. I don't run for these. Are you kidding me? Nope.
But we can figure it out. We can.
We're up against our time right now, but we always have time if there is something that you wanted to talk about that we didn't get a chance to talk about.
I don't think so. I had a very enjoyable experience on
Aw.
your show today, Ben. It was really fun. And I
Aw.
don't think there's anything else. I feel very satisfied. It was a nice time.
Oh, thank you. That's nice. That's nice of you to say. Where can people go and find out more about you?
They can go to my website at Danielle, the number 4, wi.com.
Number 4.
And
Danielle, number 4. Just Danielle 4.
Danielle for Wisconsin.
For the whole word Wisconsin?
No, just WI.
Oh, that's what it was. Oh, sorry. I missed that part. Danielle 4, WI.
Yep.
Dead.
That's cool. I got the TikTok going too. So hopefully yeah.
What?
So
Man, I was going to text Patty Shock the other day and tell her that I'm pretty sure there needs to be, or there should be, or maybe there is an age limit on who can use TikTok, Patty. But I figured first of all, I know Patty. She would think that'd be funny because I love Patty. She's awesome. I see her I'm not on TikTok.
No, middle-aged women do very well on the TikTok.
Do they really? I've never been on there. No, thank you. But I'm glad other people do. All right, so cool. The election is coming up November 8th. I think we're 40 days away. I checked this morning. So what are your plans here for the next 40 days? You're obviously very busy. You own a business. You're also on that board. Do you go door to door? How?
Yep.
Is that what you're doing pretty much for the next 40 days?
Yeah, I had the last about week and a half, so I'm getting ready to knock on some doors again this weekend. And we're doing some events on campus in Menominee and just trying to figure out how to get the message out and meet a lot of people and do what we can.
Danielle, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks, Ben.
Special thank you to our guest today, the Democratic nominee in Wisconsin's 29th Assembly District, Danielle Johnson, for taking the time out of her morning to come on for a chat with us. I'll see you right back here next Tuesday when Barron County Sheriff Chris Fitzgerald and I will be back for our latest episode of Positive Tuesday with Ben and Fitzy. And then on Thursday, will be Democratic candidate for Wisconsin's 73rd Assembly District, Laura Gapsky, will be joining me, and then followed by the Republican candidate for Wisconsin Secretary of State, Amy Loudenbeck, on Friday. So until then, for DrydenWire.com, I'm Ben Dryden saying thank you for watching, and of course, have a blessed day.